Newell stood at the large window of her garden room, looking out at the glowing towers of New Seoul. The city sparkled with blue and silver lights that reached up into the night sky. Below her, people moved around like tiny dots, going about their evening tasks. But unlike the others, Newell could feel the dying breath of the old earth beneath all the shiny new buildings. She placed her hand on the glass, and the window's computer screen showed her the day's work numbers. The small patch of real grass she had grown in Sector 7 was doing well. It was actual, living grass, not the fake electronic kind that covered most of the city now. Queen Jia, her stepmother, didn't like natural things. She wanted everything to be digital and under her control. Miss Newell, a soft voice called from behind her. Your evening meal is ready. Newell turned to see her food delivery robot, a round machine with gentle blue lights. She had named it Bomb, which meant spring in the old language. Thank you, Bomb, she said with a small smile. As she ate her dinner, Newell thought about her work as a terraforming specialist. Her job was to help bring life back to dead places. But these days, she spent more time filing reports than actually growing things. Queen Jia had made sure of that. Newell remembered how different things were when her father was still alive. Kane Min had believed in keeping some of the old ways. He had taught Newell how to listen to plants and understand Earth's remaining natural systems. Technology should help nature, not replace it, he used to say. But that was 5 years ago. Now Queen Jia ran everything through her computers and robots. The only reason Newell still had her job was because some wealthy people like to have authentic experiences with real plants. A soft beep from her wrist device interrupted her thoughts. Her friend Tai Yang, one of the royal programmers, had sent her a message. Be careful. The Queen asked for your work records today. All of them. Newell felt her heart beat faster. She looked at the small pot of flowers on her desk. Real flowers that she had grown in secret. They were white as snow, just like the ones her mother had loved. The flowers seemed to tremble slightly, responding to her worry. She walked over to her computer and began checking her files. Everything she did was supposed to be recorded and reported, but Newell had kept some things private, like how she could make plants grow without using the standard programs, or how she could feel the Earth's old magic still living deep underground. The city's lights grew brighter as night fell. From her room in the tower, Newell could see Queen Jia's main computer center glowing with harsh white light. That was where her stepmother spent most of her time, working with her precious AI systems. Newell touched the small wooden pendant she always wore, the last gift from her father. Inside it was a tiny seed, a real one from the time before everything became digital. She had kept it safe all these years, waiting for the right moment to plant it. A movement caught her eye. In the tower across from hers, she saw something unusual. The Queen's security robots were moving in a new pattern. They only did that when they were preparing for something big. Bomb. Newell called to her robot. Please check the security schedules for tonight. I cannot access that information, Bomb replied. Its lights flickered in a way that meant it was worried. All security files have been locked down. Newell looked back at Tai Yang's message. She had known this day might come. Queen Jia had never liked having a stepdaughter who could do things her computers couldn't explain. Now it seemed the Queen had finally decided to do something about it. Newell began to pack a small bag, moving quickly but quietly. She didn't know what was coming, but she knew one thing for sure. She needed to be ready to run. Queen Jia sat in her white control room, surrounded by floating screens of data. Her fingers moved through the air, directing streams of information like a conductor leading an orchestra. But today, something was bothering her. The numbers weren't perfect. Mirror, she called out to her newest AI system. Show me the public opinion data again. The air in front of her filled with colorful charts. Each one showed how much the people of New Seoul trusted and liked their leaders. The Queen's numbers were high, as they should be. But there, rising steadily over the past year, was another line. Newell's line. How is this possible? Jia asked, her voice sharp. "She only works with plants. Useless, old-fashioned plants." Mirror's calm voice filled the room. "Analysis shows that citizens find Haynewell's natural farming methods comforting. They say her gardens remind them of Earth's past. Many have started requesting real plants for their homes." The Queen stood up, her silver dress catching the light from the screens. She had worked too hard to let some dirt and seeds ruin everything. In her world, everything needed to be clean, digital, and under control. "Du Yun," she called to her chief security officer. The tall man stepped forward from his post by the door. "What do you know about the eternal sleep servers?" Du Yun's face stayed perfectly still. "The servers store the minds of criminals, Your Majesty. Once uploaded, they sleep forever in a digital prison. And there's no way out." "None, Your Majesty. The firewalls are unbreakable." Queen Jaya smiled. It was a cold smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Perfect. Prepare an upload chamber, but do it quietly. We don't want anyone to know what's happening to their beloved princess." In another part of the tower, Du Yun gathered his security team. He showed them a map of Haynewell's daily routine. Every morning, she visited her gardens. Every evening, she worked in her room. It would be easy to catch her alone. But someone else was watching. Tai Yang sat at his programming station, pretending to work on the city's weather control system. Really, he was listening to everything through a small program he had hidden in the tower's computers. His hand shook as he sent another message to Haynewell. "The Queen has ordered the eternal sleep servers prepared. You must leave tonight. Wait for my signal." Back in the control room, Queen Jia was making her final plans. "Mirror, show me Haynewell's current location." A small dot appeared on the city map. The Queen watched it move from the garden level back to the residential tower. Soon, that dot would disappear forever. And with it, all the Queen's problems. "Your Majesty," Mirror spoke suddenly. "I should inform you that removing Haynewell may have unexpected consequences. Her work with natural systems has created several stable points in the city's ecosystem." Silence. The Queen snapped. "I didn't ask for your opinion. The city ran perfectly well before she started growing her precious plants. It will run even better once she's gone." The Queen turned to the window, looking out at her perfect city. The towers reached up into the dark clouds, their lights pushing back the night. Everything was ordered. Everything was controlled. Everything was exactly as she had made it. Behind her, the screen showed new data. The city's air quality was dropping. The artificial plants were using more power than ever. The ground beneath the towers was becoming unstable. But Queen Jia didn't look at these numbers. She didn't want to see anything that didn't fit her perfect vision. In the growing darkness, her reflection smiled back at her from the window. Soon, there would be no one left who remembered the old ways. No one to challenge her digital empire. No one to remind people of what they had lost. The night grew darker as Haynewell waited in her room. Her small bag was ready by the door. Bomb, her robot helper, stood quietly in the corner with its lights dimmed. The city outside her window seemed to hold its breath. Then her wrist device lit up with Ta Yang's message. "Security teams are moving. Take the service elevator to level B3. A cargo ship is waiting. Go now." Haynewell picked up her bag and touched the wooden pendant at her neck one last time. "Goodbye, Bomb," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." The robot's lights flickered softly. "Be safe, Miss Haynewell." She slipped into the hallway. The usual security robots were missing from their posts. That worried her more than seeing them would have. Walking quickly but quietly, she made her way to the service elevator at the end of the hall. Just as the elevator doors opened, she heard heavy footsteps. Du Yun's voice echoed from around the corner. "Check every floor. She must not reach the lower levels." Haynewell's heart raced as she pressed the button for B3. The elevator seemed to move more slowly than ever before. At each floor, she feared the doors would open to reveal Queen Jaya's security team. Finally, the elevator reached B3. The doors opened to a huge room filled with cargo containers and transport robots. He Newell stepped out carefully, looking for signs of the ship Tai Yang had mentioned. A soft beep caught her attention. The small loading robot was flashing its lights at her. When she moved closer, she saw it had Tai Yang's programming signature. The robot led her through the maze of containers to a small cargo ship. The ship's door opened with a quiet hiss. Inside, the control panel glowed with a gentle blue light. On the screen was a message. Course set for mining colony DMZ-7. Autopilot engage. Good luck, Newell. She had just strapped herself into the pilot's seat when alarms began to sound throughout the building. Red lights flashed as security announcements filled the air. Alert. Unauthorized departure detected in Cargo Bay 5. Newell's fingers flew over the control panel, remembering her basic flight training. The ship's engines hummed to life. Through the front window, she could see security teams rushing into the cargo bay. The ship lifted off just as Du Yun reached the loading area. Newell caught a glimpse of his surprised face as the ship shot up through the opening bay doors and into the night sky. But something was wrong. The ship's controls began to flicker. The Queen's voice came through the communication system. "Did you think I wouldn't watch the ships, dear stepdaughter? Every computer in this city belongs to me." The autopilot system started to malfunction. The ship jerked to one side, then another. Newell grabbed the manual controls, but they fought against her hands. The colony's coordinates began to disappear from the navigation screen. Think. Newell muttered to herself. Then she remembered something her father had taught her about old spaceships. Some of them had backup systems that didn't rely on new technology. She reached under the control panel and pulled out a set of wires. The ship's modern systems shut down completely, but a smaller, older screen lit up. It showed a simple map of stars and a straight line to DMZ-7. The ship steadied as Newell took full manual control. Below her, New Seoul became a bright cluster of lights, then a glowing dot, and finally disappeared altogether. She was leaving Earth for the first time in her life. Ahead of her, stars filled the darkness of space. Somewhere among them was mining colony DMZ-7. Newell didn't know what she would find there, but she knew one thing. She was finally free of her stepmother's digital world. The colony was far away, and the ship's backup systems were old and simple. The journey would not be easy, but as Earth shrank behind her, Newell felt a strange mix of fear and hope. Whatever waited for her among the stars had to be better than eternal sleep in the Queen's servers. Newell woke up to the sound of voices arguing. Her head hurt, and she couldn't remember how she had landed the ship. The last thing she remembered was seeing the dark shape of mining colony DMZ-7 ahead of her, and then everything had gone black. "We can't just leave her in the ship," a soft voice said. "She needs help." "But she might be a spy from Earth," another voice answered. "Look at her clothes. They're too nice for a regular worker." Newell opened her eyes slowly. 7 faces looked down at her, lit by the soft glow of their work suits. They were all wearing engineer badges, but each badge had a different color. "She's awake," said the youngest-looking one. He had bright eyes and a badge that sparkled with tiny lights. "Hello, I'm Da-hyun. I saw your ship crash on my security cameras." An older man with sleepy eyes stepped forward. "I'm Sung-ho, head engineer of DMZ-7. You landed on the dark side of our colony. That's dangerous. You're lucky to be alive." Newell tried to sit up. A woman with kind eyes helped her. She wore a green badge and had small plants growing in pockets on her work suit. "I'm Myray," she said. "Don't move too fast. Your ship hit pretty hard." "Thanks to my safety shields," said another engineer proudly. He had messy hair and a blue badge. "I'm Hyun-ki. I designed them myself. Your ship would have been space dust without them." A quiet man with robots floating around him nodded. "Jinwoo," he said simply. His silver badge had small antennas that moved on their own. "Would you like some tea?" asked a tall woman with an orange badge. "I'm Unsu. I make the best tea in the colony. It helps with crash headaches. The last engineer, a woman with a music player attached to her red badge, smiled. I'm Uni. Sorry about all the questions. We don't get many visitors here. Hanul looked around. She was in a large room filled with machines, plants, and strange inventions. Screens on the walls showed different parts of the colony. Through a window, she could see stars and the curve of an asteroid. I'm Hanul, she said carefully. I came from Earth because... She stopped, wondering how much she should tell them. Because Queen Jia wanted to put you in the eternal sleep servers, Dahyun finished. Everyone turned to look at him. He shrugged. I check the Earth news networks when I'm bored. There's a big reward for finding you. Hanul's heart sank, but before she could speak, Sung-ho laughed. Good thing we don't care much for Earth's rewards here. He yawned and sat down in a comfortable-looking chair. We have more important things to worry about. Like our dying ecosystem, Mayray added. She touched one of her plants gently. The colony's systems aren't working right. The plants won't grow properly. And the air recyclers are acting strange, Yun-Su said, bringing Hanul a cup of sweet-smelling tea. The robots are unhappy too, Jin-Woo murmured. His floating robots beeped sadly. Hyun-Ki grinned. Hey, you're a terraforming specialist, right? That's what the news said. Maybe you could help us. In exchange for hiding me? Hanul asked, taking a sip of the surprisingly good tea. In exchange for being part of our family, Yoon-hee corrected. Music played softly from her badge. We take care of each other here. Hanul looked at each of them. Sung-ho dozing in his chair, Mi-rae tending her plants, Hyun-ki typing on a floating screen, Yun-Su mixing more tea, Jin-Woo talking quietly to his robots, Yoon-hee swaying to her music, and Da-hyun bouncing with excitement. They were strange, but they felt more like a family than anything she had known since her father died. I would like that, she said, and for the first time since leaving Earth, she smiled. 1 month had passed since Hanul's arrival at mining colony DMZ-7. The dark, cold station had already begun to change. In the main living area, real plants grew alongside the machines, their leaves reaching toward carefully placed growing lights. Hanul walked through the hydroponic garden she had built with Mi-rae. The plants here were different from the ones on Earth. They had to be stronger, able to grow in artificial light and recycled air. But they were alive, and that made all the difference. The oxygen levels are better than ever, Yun-Su said, checking her screens while sipping her special tea. Whatever you're doing with these plants, it's working. Hanul touched a leaf gently. She could feel the life in it, just like she had with the plants on Earth. But here, no one told her this ability was strange or dangerous. Instead, the engineers watched with interest and asked questions about how they could help. Sung-ho had given her a workspace next to his favorite napping chair. He said he thought better while sleeping, and the sound of Hanul working with the plants gave him good dreams. Right now, he was snoring softly while she examined a new type of space-hardy tomato plant. Hanul. Da-hyun's excited voice came through the station speakers. Come to the workshop. I made something for your plants. In Da-hyun's cluttered workshop, tiny robots moved everywhere like busy insects. The youngest engineer held up a small device proudly. It's a mini-bot that can tell when plants need water or nutrients. Watch. The little robot rolled over to a nearby plant and made a happy beeping sound. Lights on its back showed the plant's health status. Jin-Woo's larger robots gathered around, curious about their new tiny cousin. That's wonderful, Da-hyun, Hanul said. The young engineer beamed with pride. Later that day, Hyun-ki called everyone to the main control room. I found something strange in the network, he said, pointing to his screens. Someone's been trying to get past our firewalls. Hanul felt her heart beat faster. Queen Jia? Probably, Hyun-ki nodded. But don't worry, my security systems are way better than Earth's. I write all my codes using ancient Earth memes. No one can crack them. Yoon-hee played a gentle song through the station's speakers to calm everyone's nerves. The music mixed with the soft humming of machines and the quiet rustle of leaves. It made the cold space station feel warm and safe. That evening, all 7 engineers gathered in what they now called the garden room. Myray had started the tradition of having dinner together there, surrounded by Hae-Newell's growing plants. The room smelled of Eun-Soo's tea and the herbs they had started growing for cooking. The mining robots are working better now, Jin-Woo said quietly as they ate. His personal robots nodded in agreement. They like the new air. It feels more natural. Everything's better, Sung-ho said, fully awake for once. The station used to feel like a machine. Now it feels like a home. Ha-Newell looked around at her new family. Da-hyun was showing Myray his latest tiny robot design. Hyun-ki was explaining an old Earth meme to a confused Jin-Woo. Eun-Soo was sharing her newest tea blend with Yoon-hee, who hummed along with the station's background sounds. Outside the window, Earth was just a bright blue dot in the distance. Hae-Newell thought about her old garden room in the tower, with its perfect view of New Seoul. This view was different. Darker, stranger, but somehow more beautiful. Here, among the stars, and these 7 odd engineers, she had found something she never had in the gleaming city: freedom to be herself. Little did she know that back on Earth, Queen Jia was watching that same view of space, planning her next move. Queen Jia stood in her control room on Earth, watching the new code flow across her screens. Her plan had taken 2 months to prepare, but now it was ready. The code looked like a simple software update for space colony systems, the kind that was sent out regularly. But hidden inside it was something dangerous. "Mirror," the Queen said to her eye, "send the update to mining colony TMZ7. Mark it as urgent." In the colony, Hae-Newell was working with Myray in their expanded garden when Hyun-ki's voice came through the speakers. "Hey everyone, there's a new system update from Earth. They say it's important for life support systems." Sung-ho woke up from his nap in the corner. "Check it carefully," he said, yawning. "Earth never sends us anything good." Hyun-ki ran his usual security checks. "It looks normal," he said, sounding surprised. "All the safety codes are correct. It's signed by the Space Colony Authority." Ha-Newell walked to the control room, where all 7 engineers had gathered. Da-hyun's tiny helper robots crawled over the screens, scanning the code. Jin-Woo's larger robots stood guard by the doors, as they always did when something came from Earth. "The update is for personal devices too," Eun-Soo said, looking at her tablet. "It says all colony members need to install it." Yoon-hee played a worried tune on her music system. "I don't like it. Earth hasn't contacted us in months." "Why now?" But their devices were starting to slow down. Warning messages appeared, saying the old software would stop working soon. They needed the update to keep the colony's systems running smoothly. "I'll install it first," Hae-Newell offered. "If anything goes wrong, it's probably meant for me anyway." The engineers protested, but Hae-Newell had already started the update on her personal device. At first, nothing seemed wrong. The device worked faster, and the display looked clearer. Then she felt it. A strange tingling in her neural implants, the small computer chips that all Earth citizens had in their brains. The room began to spin. She heard Queen Jaya's voice, distant but clear. "Sleep, dear stepdaughter. Sleep forever." Ha-Newell. Myray caught her as she fell. The other engineers rushed forward. Hae-Newell's eyes were open but empty, her body still but breathing. "It's attacking her neural implants," Hyun-ki said, checking his screens. The code was hiding the sleep virus, but something's fighting it. They could see it in the readings. The virus was trying to shut down Hae-Newell's mind, but her connection to living things was protecting her. The plants in the station rustled without any wind. The colony's air felt charged with energy. "Her natural abilities," Sung-ho said, fully awake and serious. They're keeping her partly conscious, but she's stuck between sleeping and waking. Jin Woo's robots beeped in alarm. On every screen, the same message appeared. More updates were coming. The Queen was trying to force her way into the colony systems. Dahyun's small robots formed a protective circle around Haenul. "What do we do?" he asked, looking scared for the first time since Haenul had met him. Eum-su set down her tea and stood up straight. "We fight back. Haenul protected our home. Now we protect her." The 7 engineers looked at each other and nodded. Each of them had skills the Queen didn't know about. Each of them had secrets Earth had never discovered. Together, they might have a chance to save Haenul. But as they began their work, Haenul lay still, trapped in a world between dreams and darkness, her mind fighting a battle no one could see. The 7 engineers gathered in their workshop, surrounding Haenul's still form. Her breathing was steady, but her eyes remained empty, seeing things no one else could see. The plants around her moved gently, responding to her presence even in her sleep-like state. Sung-ho took charge, more alert than anyone had ever seen him. "We each have something special to offer," he said. "Together, we might save her. Mireille, you start." Mireille stepped forward with a small pot of glowing plants. "These are memory flowers," she explained. "They respond to brain patterns. If we can connect them to Haenul's neural implants, they might help us see what's happening in her mind." "I can help with that connection," Jinwoo said quietly. His robots floated forward, carrying delicate tools. "My robots can create bridges between organic and digital systems." Hyunki was typing faster than ever on his screens. "The Queen's virus is like nothing I've seen before," he said. "But I found something interesting in old Earth files. Something about natural healing codes." "Those healing codes need power," Eum-su added. She held up a container of her specialty. "I've been growing these herbs in space. They carry unusual energy patterns. They might give Haenul's natural abilities a boost." Yoon-hee adjusted her music system. "Sound waves can affect both plants and computers," she said. "I've been studying Earth's old healing frequencies. We could use them to strengthen whatever we try." Dahyun's small robots were already building something. "I'm making tiny helpers," he explained. "They can travel through her neural pathways and fight the virus directly. They're so small, the Queen's program won't see them coming." "And I," Sung-ho said with a smile, "had a dream about how to put it all together." They worked through the station's night cycle. Mireille's memory flowers connected to Haenul's neural implants, their soft glow pulsing with her thoughts. Jinwoo's robots created careful connections between the flowers and the station's computers. Hyunki's healing codes flowed through these connections, carried by Dahyun's microscopic robots. Eum-su brewed her special tea and fed it to Haenul drop by drop, while Yoon-hee's healing music filled the air. Sung-ho watched over everything, making small adjustments based on what he had seen in his dreams. The station's plants seemed to help too, their leaves turning toward Haenul, as if lending her their strength. "Look," Dahyun pointed at his screens. His tiny robots were sending back images from inside Haenul's neural implants. They could see the Queen's virus, a dark code trying to trap Haenul's mind. But they could also see something else. Her connection to living things, Mireille whispered. "It's not just in her mind. It's part of who she is. The Queen's digital virus can't fully understand it." The memory flowers glowed brighter. Haenul's fingers twitched. On the screens, they could see Dahyun's robots working with Haenul's natural abilities, pushing back against the virus. Yoon-hee's music grew stronger, matching the rhythm of Haenul's heartbeat. Eum-su's tea seemed to glow as it touched Haenul's lips. Jinwoo's robots hummed in harmony with the healing frequencies. "It's working," Hyunki said, watching his code merge with the natural healing process. "The virus is breaking down." The engineers held their breath as Haenul's eyes began to move under her closed lids. The memory flowers pulsed faster. The station's plants leaned closer. Suddenly, Hey Newell's eyes opened, but they were different now. In them, the engineers could see something new, a perfect blend of digital light and natural life. She had changed, and they knew nothing would ever be the same. When Hey Newell opened her eyes, the world looked different. She could see both the digital and natural parts of everything around her. The colony's computers glowed with flowing data, while the plants pulsed with life force. Most surprisingly, she could see how these two different kinds of energy could work together. "How do you feel?" Mireille asked, helping her sit up. The memory flowers were still connected to her neural implants, their glow matching her heartbeat. "I feel complete," Hey Newell said. She looked at her hands. She could see the digital signals from her neural implants mixing with her natural abilities. "I understand everything now." Sun Ho nodded as if he had expected this. "Your connection to living things has joined with the colony's digital systems. You're a bridge between both worlds." Suddenly, all the screens in the station lit up red. Queen Jaya's face appeared, her expression cold with anger. "What have you done?" she demanded. "How dare you corrupt my perfect digital systems with this natural interference?" But Hey Newell wasn't afraid anymore. She stood up, supported by her 7 friends. She could feel the strength of the entire colony behind her. Every plant, every machine, every bit of code working in harmony. "The world doesn't have to be just digital, stepmother," Hey Newell said calmly. "Look what we've created here. Nature and technology working together. It's stronger than either one alone." She reached out her hands. Through her new abilities, she connected to both the station's computers and its living systems. The plants in the garden grew stronger. The machines ran more smoothly. Even Jinwoo's robots seemed more alive. "Impossible," the queen shouted. But on the screens, they could see her perfect digital world starting to change. Hey Newell's influence spread through the space network, reaching from the colony back to Earth. In New Seoul's parks, real grass began to grow through the artificial turf. Trees that had been holographic displays transformed into living plants. The city's computers didn't stop working. Instead, they began working with nature instead of trying to control it. Daehin's screens showed reports from all over Earth. Other colonies were following the MZ7's example. People were tired of living in a purely digital world. They wanted the balance that Hey Newell and the engineers had created. Queen Jaya's power over her digital empire weakened as more people chose this new way of living. Her perfect system couldn't fight against the combined strength of nature and technology working together. "Your choice, stepmother," Hey Newell said gently. "You can be part of this new world, or you can stay alone in your digital prison. But you can't stop this change." The queen looked at the living plants growing in her control room. She touched a flower that had sprouted through her perfect floor. For a moment, her face softened, remembering a time before everything was digital. Then her image faded from the screens. In the colony, Hey Newell turned to her 7 friends. "Thank you," she said. "Each of you helped make this possible. You showed me that being different isn't wrong. It's what makes us strong." Sun Ho smiled sleepily. "That's what family does," he said. "Now let's have some of Eum-su's tea and listen to Yoonhee's music while we watch our new world grow." As they sat together in their garden room, surrounded by the gentle hum of machines and the soft rustle of leaves, Hey Newell felt truly at peace. The stars outside their window seemed to shine brighter, watching over this small space colony where a new kind of fairy tale had come true. One where nature and technology, past and future, found a way to live happily ever after.